had this big dream. I had to scale it back to like just the functionality that I needed to make the thing work. I had to go find somebody in another country to help me build the thing because I didn't have the money to build it right.
There was never a plan B. It was always going to be plan A, and I was going to figure out what it was going to take to make plan A work.
I saw one of the guys probably 2 years after we went through the accelerator. I was like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, oh man, I'm trying to close this $750,000 bridge loan. Like if we don't get this, like we're going to be out of business. And I'm like, what? Like,
I watched a lot of Shark Tank, and you always see these guys coming on that are like, what's your marketing budget? 0. So
there's no scoreboard, meaning like there's no shot clock, there's no game clock. We can play this until we're 80 years old, right? And the only time you fail is when you give up. Hey guys, welcome to the Sales Factory. It's your host, Coach Carroll, back with another episode. Man, I hope you guys are off to a great start this year. We're recording this one in January. I don't know where you're at in the US or around the world, but make sure you smash that subscribe button, and I don't want you to miss any of the other episodes that we've got coming down the pipeline this year. I've got Nisrine Masri. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. She's giving me the nods and smiling, so I think we're okay. She's the founder and CEO of Movers Dispatch Board. She's also been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And if you guys are watching on the video format, that means that she started when she was like 5. So I'm super excited to have her in the Sales Factory. This is a little shift from all the insurance agents that we've been talking to and the real estate agents we've been talking to. She graduated with a bachelor's degree business administration from the University of Texas at Arlington. She established her own moving company, which is very cool. Definitely not something that you would think would be like a female business, right? Which is super cool. Always love entrepreneurs that are outside the rules and outside the norm. And so it looks like I'm reading her bio here. It looks like she's got lots of stuff that she's going to be able to share with us. She also, this is very cool. Her platform's got Zapier integrations. You guys know I'm a huge Zapier fan. So maybe we'll nerd out on that a little bit today as well. So Nisrine, welcome to the Sales Factory.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on your show. Just a great opportunity. So thank you for allowing me to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I gave you a brief intro, and before everybody hops in the comments section and be like, DJ, that was so inappropriate comment, male dominated industry. No, her bio says that moving is male bio. Like I'm not out of line here. Okay. Nobody needs to come up. Don't nobody come put me in a headlock, okay? But talk to us about this. What made you want to let's start there. Like, what made you want to start a moving company and get into that business? I'm always curious, when I find entrepreneurs that are interesting business owners, right? I've interviewed a lot of insurance agents and real estate agents, and they always have their unique stories because nobody grows up and is like, yeah, when I get big, I want to be an insurance agent, right? Or I want to own a moving company, right? I don't think for 5-year-old, Nisrine was like, when I grow up, I want to own a moving company. So give us a little background about yourself. I love in the background, if you guys aren't watching this on the video portion, you should go to YouTube and check it out. But if you're watching audio only, she's got a sign up behind her that says Fearless, which is cool because my vlog is called Fearless Days. And so love that. We're already off to a good start. Nisrine, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute. Give a little intro, a little expanded intro about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a great intro. So yes, definitely male dominated, and that's just kind of the way it is. I definitely didn't grow up wanting to be in the moving and storage industry, but just happened to have a really good background in sales. And one of the key things I feel is really important to be a really successful entrepreneur, you have to be a good salesperson because every day you're selling yourself. So you're selling yourself, whether you're trying to get financing for certain things, whether you're trying to build up your clientele portfolio, you have to be able to sell. You're selling every single day. So honestly, my background started in sales. Worked for a construction company, did sales for them. And I'm telling you, I started in my super early 20s. Went from the construction side to actually a 3PL out of Grapevine, Texas, a third-party logistics company. So obviously in trucking, and worked for them for 3 years before I decided that I was done being, someone's employee and was going to start my own. Partnered up with my partner, and then we started our moving company. I didn't know anything about the moving and storage industry, 0, nothing. I just knew I could sell anything. So it didn't really matter what I was selling. So that's how it started. So I think that's the key thing is that if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur or that's your journey in life and that's what you're wanting to do, I think one of the key things that you have to be able to do is sell. So
I love that. I love that.
got into, that's kind of how the whole journey started. I definitely didn't grow up thinking I would be in the trucking. I thought I was going to be something in fashion. I thought I wanted to be a pilot. I thought I wanted to be an attorney. Who knows? I had like so many different dreams and visions, but this is kind of where I fell. So,
Very cool. I love that you said entrepreneurs have to know how to sell and sell themselves because I've got a book that's coming out in May called The Hunter Head Game. And I talk exactly about that, about you have to know how to hunt, right? And so I think a lot of times entrepreneurs will start a business and not understand that, like, maybe they love making widgets or buggy whips, and it's like that's not what makes a business successful. Being able to sell that widget or that buggy whip or that sourdough loaf of bread, right, is like that's what makes you successful. And so that's cool to hear that you identified that early on, and like you're like, hey, if I can sell anything, like I can make anything work, right? Doesn't matter if it's an industry that's about moving or trucking. I also love that you said you made that switch where you're like, hey, I don't want to work for anybody anymore, right? There's always that aha moment where you go from working, what's that meme say, an entrepreneur is the only person that'll give up working 40 hours a week for someone else to go work 80 hours a week for themselves, right? And so,
absolutely.
and a lot of
Absolutely.
times for many, many years, a lot less money than you were making at your job. And so tell us about that, like that first venture into entrepreneurship. We'll talk about, your SaaS product here. I'm guessing it's SaaS. It's Mover Dispatch Board. It sounds like it's a software,
Yeah,
somewhat
yeah,
software. So
yeah, yeah,
um, we'll,
definitely.
we'll talk about that a little bit, but let's talk about your first entrepreneur journey, because I want to dig into that. Being a first time guest in the Sales Factory, I want everybody to kind of understand your story. What were maybe some of the first struggles that you had going out on your own?
Well, I think it's always like a sense of fear because in the initial you're used to, having a set salary or making a certain amount of money. And obviously I bootstrapped both companies. So I still run the moving company as well as my SaaS company. But the initial start, it's always, it's scary because you're thinking, okay, like you said, you're going to go in from making a certain amount of money to maybe nothing. That's a scary thought. But how I've done it is just build things up slowly. So over a matter of time, I started selling and then kind of built that up, work part-time at this job and work part-time at, building my own. And then eventually when I found it was bringing in enough to like feed me. And then I was like, okay, and, pay the bills, keep the lights on. And then I made that switch. That's when I made the switch. But really, honestly, like really believing in what I was doing and not accepting failure was like the biggest thing that's really helped me with building up anything. Just knowing that I knew that a failure wasn't an option. There was never a plan B. It was always going to be plan A, and I was going to figure out what it was going to take to make plan A work. So whether it meant that maybe my product needed help or my service needed help or I needed to change something up, was constantly looking at what I was doing and then changing that to adapt to whatever my client base wanted.
I'm just taking some notes here. You said failure was never an option. One of the things that I love about entrepreneurship, Nisrine, I hope you agree with me on this, is that there's no scoreboard, meaning like there's no shot clock, there's no game clock. We can play this until we're 80 years old, right? And the only time you fail is when you give up, right? And people are like, no, it's when you run out of money. It's like, no, because technically you could go borrow more money. Like you could be out of money and go get some more, right? You could go raise some capital from an investor, or like you and I have both done, because we're bootstrapped in all of my ventures. I've borrowed money from banks, but I'm bootstrapped in the sense I don't have any investors. You go raise the capital from your customer, and you want a litmus test of if you've got a shitty product or not. Go try to raise your capital from your customers, because if you do, you won't raise any money, right? And
Right.
I think that's like, unfortunately, we kind of like live in this bubble right now to where we saw this. My company, Carroll Media, we're an Endeavor entrepreneurship group. So like we went through an accelerator with three other companies. Those three other companies, we're the only one that's still in business, and they had all raised millions of dollars. And I saw one of the guys probably 2 years after we went through the accelerator. I was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh man, I'm trying to close this $750,000 bridge loan. Like if we don't get this, like we're gonna be out of business." And I'm like, "What? Like that probably means you don't have a great product." I don't know. You like to me, it's just like you, if you have a good product, the marketplace is going to adapt, and we just kind of. It's my personal preference, but I like being bootstrapped. Sure, I can see a point in time where maybe you do, especially with a SaaS model business, like maybe you got to raise some capital to get you over the next hump. But man, if you're bootstrapped, you got to talk to the customers. The customers have to love you enough to keep your lights on and keep you in business. And so,
Absolutely.
has there ever been a point in time where like you've had to like something maybe wasn't working? Like I got to go talk to my customers and like see what's broke or see like how I can fix this or how I can make it better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every day. It's always
Every
it's a
day,
brand
she said.
every day, every day. Well, here's the thing. The reality is that when things aren't working, you have to kind of look back at what you're doing, whether it be like, for example, with Movers Dispatch Board, what is it that we need to provide our subscriber base to build trust? The biggest challenge that I've had with Movers Dispatch Board, it's a new concept for the moving and storage industry. A load board's not a new concept for the general freight. There's a lot of freight boards out there, but for moving and
Can you,
storage, it's a very new concept.
Nisrine, can you tell us what a freight board is? Because some people may not even know
Yes.
what you're talking about.
So basically, what a freight board is, if you're hauling freight such as maybe gravel, maybe you're hauling product from one warehouse to another, it would be anything, any commodity other than household goods. So, if you're hauling that, there's, for example, DAT board is one of the biggest freight boards. So if you are a trucker and you're looking for loads to haul, you would get on a freight board and then you could find loads to haul.
Hmm.
So with example with the moving and storage industry, when you're running a moving company, there was not a freight board for our industry. So, for
Oh.
example, if you had a moving company doing deliveries in California to deliver their own clients, coming back home from California, they don't have loads coming back in if they're not affiliated with a national van line. So if they're privately owned, they're either backhauling empty or waiting around to, get some additional business some way, somehow. So what our load board does, it connects privately owned moving companies onto one board so they can see if there's a company that has less than a truck load, or if they have a truck available, they can get on there and see and exchange loads within the moving and storage industry. But it's a B2B platform
Wow.
and not B2C.
That's cool. Wow. Is there any other thing like that's the first time I've heard of anything like that?
Yeah, no, no, it's the first one that's kind of out there. And that's kind of been the biggest challenge with my board, is that it's a new concept for the moving and storage industry. So, you kind of have to build some trust with your user base. And so we've done a lot of different things to build that trust with our users.
Yeah. And you get into, just general in business generally, if you have a product or a service that you have to educate the market on, right, then it becomes very expensive to go to market, right? In my very first business, Easy Pro, which is a power washing and window cleaning business, like we started doing roof cleaning and we're in Kentucky. And so like roof cleaning wasn't like a known thing. In Florida, everybody knows you have to clean the algae off of your roof, right? And so like early on in business, I'm like running these ads and people are like, yeah, I don't think it's safe to pressure wash a roof. It's like, no, 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 we don't pressure wash it. It's like a chemical application. It's like, I don't know about this, right? It's like, and so when you have that education piece, I can definitely say that's probably an uphill battle for you guys right out the gate, right? Like mom and pop movers of going like, what? No, nothing like this exists. You're like, no, 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 we're the first. We're gonna revolutionize this thing. Like, you got to get on now. They're like, nah, I'm good. I'll just drive my truck back empty, right? It's like, no, I can make you thousands extra dollars.
A lot of them are starting to grasp it. And the thing is that we've released a lot of video content. Social media has really helped with that.
Oh, love it.
And technology is kind of improving in the moving and storage space. So that's really helped. And so we release a lot of content on a regular basis. Every day
Nice.
we're releasing new content about our product and information, and a lot of how-to videos and how to do this and that, and partnering with different people in our industry to kind of build trust and then inform people of the service and product that we're offering.
That's cool. So I'm a huge proponent of social media. So the Sales Factory's been around since 2015, a podcast, and I've been putting out my first YouTube video was in 2009. Don't worry, guys. You can't find it. It is hidden. I was still sounding like a hillbilly from Kentucky back then, so we don't have those videos online. They're out there. I have them in the archives. We'll bring them back one day, but you can't find them. Talk to me a little bit about social media. I mean, obviously, Carroll Media is an ad tech company, my advertising technology company. Like, how have you guys used social media to help you with your efforts? Because like we tell small business owners all the time, like it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, right? Because like if you go back to the 1950s, there was no Google, there was no YouTube. Like maybe you could go find, like, I don't even know, Zig Ziglar was doing seminars back then, but it's like, maybe you
Yes.
could go find a seminar to Toastmasters or
Yeah.
something. But other than that, there just wasn't a lot of information available compared to how it is today, right? Like, I mean, somebody could be in the moving industry and be like, oh, wow, I found this podcast. I found this lady. She's going to be my mentor now, right? Talk to us a little bit about that. Like, how are you guys utilizing social media? Because I think that it is God's gift to small business owners, man, to be able to go direct to consumer to get your message out there. Because at the end of the day, most small businesses, they think they have all these problems when really their biggest problem is not enough people know who they are and the service they provide. So how do you guys utilize social media to like get brand awareness, get your message out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for any small business owner that's out there that's listening to me, it's crucial to really put some money into social media. But I do want to let everyone know that I don't pay for ads. So a lot of my
Oh,
marketing is
we're
done
going to
with
dig
a
into that
zero
one.
with a zero budget. So
Okay.
I don't pay for ads at all. Everything is done, with no money for, I don't fork out any money for any advertising. So I watched a lot of Shark Tank, and you always see these guys coming on that are like, "What's your marketing budget?" Zero. So my marketing budget is I hired an intern. Well, she actually had recently graduated from UNT in Dallas, and I hired her on full time. It was probably like the best investment I ever made. So yes, I did add in, I did add a full time person, but what she does for me is all day, just basically just create content, post everywhere, reach out to people, scout for new clients, and that was probably like the best investment that I, worked out. I used to outsource a lot of it in the past, but never really got the real results that I wanted. I'm not saying outsourcing is a bad thing. It's definitely not. I am a firm believer in outsourcing in a small business because you can't always staff. But for the SaaS product that I had, and knowing that I was kind of releasing a product that was new in the market, we had to create a lot of content, a lot of video content. So she's able to create video content. She obviously reached out to you to have me on. And so I've been on several other podcasts. And so she's joined, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We're on it, but she does all that for me every day. And it's a full-time job for her. And she's never sitting around not, with nothing to do. Like we have that much content that we're creating, whether it be like our email marketing that we send out regular emails to our current subscribers and then potentially new subscribers. So all that content gets created by her.
Very
So
cool.
definitely if you're looking into it and you're thinking that you need help in that, it's a wonderful hire because the results that she does every day, we're able to see our increased subscriber count and stuff.
Yeah. So I am a big proponent of having an in-house content person because like even for the small businesses that even work with us, like I can't pull out my phone and do a selfie video with you. You're in Dallas, I'm in Kentucky, right? Like it's just impossible. But what I will say on this topic is that on the paid side of advertising, the challenge that a lot of small business owners run into is they put the content out there, and unless you're lucky enough, and I call it luck because that's really what it is, to have something that goes viral, right? That gets you 1 million, 2 million views, which I have
Right.
had clients that they're an insurance agent. They make a video. One of my guys, Nick Saka, he made this viral video. I think it was like 16 million views. And it had nothing to do with insurance. It said white people hiking and black people hiking. And it was like him hiking and then it was like black people hiking and it was nothing. And then I had to ask like one of my black friends, but I was like, what is this? It was like the smoke detector sound, because apparently that's like a notorious thing in their community. Like nobody changed the smoke detector. And so like it went bananas. And I mean, he had pro athletes leaving comments in on the post.
Wow.
They're like, this is so wrong, but so right. And I mean, it blew up and got him a ton of brand awareness. So like organic content on that side, yes, 100%, I'm with it. The power of paying though, and you may or may not know this, and so we'll share it with the audience, is that the platforms are very much a pay to play platform now. And so you could have the best content in the world. You're really only going to reach like 3 to 5% of the people that are following you on social organically. The other thing that I've recently figured out, because we post on like my Coach Carroll content, it goes out daily, right? Every single day we're posting a reel that's chopped up from podcast or my videos I make. I made one the other day about my new Hummer. I got a new Hummer EV. And so I was like, my wife was out driving in the snow doing the crab walk. And I was like, oh, this will go. it took off. I didn't tell my team member that helps me post on social that, hey, I just posted this thing and it's like gaining popularity. I mean, the like average graph was like this. I mean, this thing just took off. 3 hours later, we throw another piece of content on top of it and just smashed it. It killed it. It killed the reach and it like blew it apart. I was like, oh no, man, that was a bad move on my part. But the power of paid ads is that, hey, I can make a really good piece of content, or better yet, the best move is to make 10 pieces of content, whichever one pops. We say, oh, organically, the audience said that one was our best piece. Take that one and then put paid dollars behind it. Here's why I'm such a big proponent of paid ads. It's not just because like that's our business, but for dollar, it beats any other form of paid advertising in the marketplace. You can reach
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
thousand people on Facebook and Instagram for less than $5. Uh,
Right.
go to your local news station or your local newspaper and say, hey, can you show my TV ad to 1,000 people for $5? They're going to laugh you out of the place, right?
Right.
They're going to want $1,500 just to even make the ad. So I agree with you that having a content
Yes.
creator, somebody that's in college that are recently graduated, they're great. They live on the platforms. They already know it. You don't have to train them on what TikTok or Instagram is. It's
Yes.
just, make my content for me. But I really say, and the other piece that I think, and I'll give some, give another little nugget out here, is a retargeting ad. I think is like your base level. Even if you don't spend any money on paid ads, pixel your site with a metapixel, your SaaS site, and then have an ad that shows that says, hey, for 30 days, 60 days, 180 days after someone visits our site, we're going to show them this video, right? And then that way, that you're getting your message across to those people. And for you guys, like something, if you're a SaaS business, it might be like, hey, I saw that you just checked out our website and you probably thought it was super complicated and too much, but in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use our software, right? Boom. And then like,
Right.
you're driving that message home. So I'll drop a little cash register cha-ching on that one for myself here in the sales factory. But we'll get back to
No,
it
I
because
love it. It's all good.
yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious though. I don't get to interview a lot of SaaS entrepreneurs or SaaSpreneurs. I'm in SaaS Academy, Dan Martell SaaS Academy, so we call them SaaSpreneurs. Talk to me about like how'd you make the switch from what I would call a blue collar business, right, moving freight over to SaaS? Because I have my reasons of why I did it, but I'm curious to hear like what aha moment or frustration or like, hell, I don't know, it was a shower thought. Coach Carroll loves shower thoughts. Those are some of my best ideas. But what happened to Nisrine that says, hey, I'm going to start a SaaS company?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, to tell you the truth, the idea I've had for quite a bit, a long time. And one of the biggest challenges that I found that we had being a privately owned moving company, it was interlining loads, finding good drivers. When you have a shipment that's going to be maybe a quarter of a truck or not even a full truck, if you're moving someone that's a studio apartment, sometimes you get caught up with like shipments that are going to areas that you're not going to have a full truck to run to. So at that point, you're trying to look for someone who you could interline with, but you're having to do either being in business for 20 years, looking up things in like the yellow pages or movers associations. And then
Yellow pages,
obviously
what's
like
that?
Google and stuff got bigger and you were able to like search for companies, but there really wasn't a way of doing that easily. So that was
Hmm.
always an internal operational struggle that we had, you know.
Wow.
So, and finding loads coming back. What were you going to haul bringing coming back? What was the easiest way to find loads to bring back so you're not losing money bringing back a crew and a truck empty? So
Hmm.
that's kind of where the moment it's been something that kind of just gradually had the idea and I'm like, this is just too good of an idea not to do it. And so a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to, start the development. So literally from some paper, I just kind of started drawing things out and listing out what are these features. And obviously I had, a list of 100 features and everything that I wanted initially, but obviously with costs, you can't start off with everything. It's like, okay, this will be phase one, this will be phase two, this will be, so I had to kind of scale to grow and so that's kind of how it started. It started, kind of smaller with just some of the base features of like what was the basic actual function that I wanted the platform to do. And I started with that, and then from there, kind of slowly started growing and building it up. Definitely with a SaaS model and a marketplace type model, it's not something that you're going to launch to market and it's going to instantly grow. The biggest thing and the biggest challenge is you have to have mass user and you actually have to have loads on the board, because if you don't have a mass pool of users, then if you're looking for loads or if you're looking for something and you only have 2 subscribers, that's
Yeah.
basically someone's going to get on and get back off. So I really had to kind of change my business model and decide, okay, how are my plans? How was I going to charge? How was I going to get people to trust it and get on there? So I had to make a lot of adjustments in the past 2 years, but it was really honestly from an operational sense. That's how the whole idea came together. I think someone who was outside of the industry, like a software developer, probably wouldn't have sat back and thought, hey, I'm going to develop this, right? Like, how would they know, or what would they know what a small, moving company owner, what kind of challenges were they facing when they were wanting to haul interstate? So,
Yeah.
and I've always been a kind of a technology, kind of a nerd. I love, I've always loved technology. I could code in some, basic languages. And so it
Wow.
was kind of, it was kind of something that I kind of jumped into and thought, okay, well, I don't code in PHP. So I'm going to obviously have to outsource the coding. And I thought, well, I could probably figure it out, but do I have the time? No, I don't have the time. So I'm going to have to, set up a team and find a team to do it for me. And that's kind of when I started doing all my research and finding out where was I going to develop? Was I going to develop overseas? Where was I going to develop in the US? And then eventually, set up a team, and I have a full development team. And basically, I'm just kind of the designer of, what functions, this is what I want it to do. And then we, come up with, what is it going to look like, and so on and so forth. And then they release, I test and they test and we figure it out and then we release. So we release stuff about every 30 days. So
Wow.
that's pretty cool. I didn't think I was going to end up, going from moving and storage, which I'm still doing, into getting into software. So I have,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty busy girl.
It sounds like it. So
Yeah.
what do you mind if I ask, like, did you decide to do US base or offshore?
I went offshore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I really wanted to stay in the US, but I had to go offshore just because of pricing.
Yeah, when we were building Alley, which is our AI platform that automates a lot of social media for small business owners, uh, I did the same thing, right? Had this like big vision of all these things I wanted it to do, and then it was like we scoped the work out to a couple of like dev shops locally here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was like, 150 grand, 200 grand, like, oh shit, maybe we won't be building an app. But then, what happens though, I think this is the power of like being scrappy, which I think is like one of the like best traits that an entrepreneur can have. And while also like, I don't know, I don't give as many flowers to like an entrepreneur whose first business they raised $1 million and like are you're off, right? Versus like somebody like you or I that is like, no, I had this big dream. I had to scale it back to like just the functionality that I needed to make the thing work. I had to go find somebody in another country to help me build the thing because like I didn't have
Yes.
the money to build it right. Like to me, that's entrepreneurship. That's the scrappiness, the hungriness that occurs out of that. I talk about this in my book that's coming out, The 100 Head Game. But it's like being hungry is a really good trait to have, right? Like and missing some meals, like remembering the days where you went a little hungry, right? And so like I just I remember I'll tell a quick story to Serene. I was on an indie innovation trip. We went to Indianapolis with the local chamber of commerce here in Louisville, and we are like going to all these like tech startups, and like we go to this one called Xylo, and I don't even know if they're still in business or not. But basically, what they did is they monitored your bank account to like look for subscriptions and then help you easily cancel subscriptions out.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy was like, he's in his like probably mid 40s, dressed like he's a 20-year-old college kid, right? With like his hoodie and his jeans and his Vans on, and he's like talking about how like they worked with Under Armour or Nike and they got 34 employees and they did $3 million last year, blah blah blah. And I'm like, hold on a second, 34 employees with 3 million in revenue, like that fucking math don't math. Like, I'm from Kentucky, but I didn't have to take my shoes off to do that math. And so I raised my hand and I'm like, hey, I got a question. The guy's like, yeah, what's up, bro? And I was like, are you guys profitable? And he was like, no. Like I was stupid for asking the question. And I get it. This is when everybody will hop in my comments. No, DJ, you don't understand. Like you're unprofitable till you grow to scale. And it's like, I'm like, cool. There's one Uber for every 1,000 that don't make it, right? And so
Right.
I think you're playing with fire. And I did a little a math equation with Chat GPT the other day. I was like, hey, if we do $1 million in revenue, we're above this, but I was doing like simple math. I was like, if we do a it was 1.5 is the number I did. I said 1.5 million in revenue, grown at 30% over 10 years. What's my revenue at 10 years? And it was like 34 million 800 like so, and it's like, see, that works too, right? And it's like I want to write
Right,
this book eventually called The Long Way Home, and it's about entrepreneurs like you and I, that it's like it takes a while. It's not raise capital for 3 years and like sell it to some big private equity firm for gazillions of dollars. That doesn't
right,
happen every day.
right.
And so kudos to you for bootstrapping, man. I think that I just think like you get a couple extra pats on the back when you're like, yeah, I'm just like I'm doing it on my own. You not on your own. You have a team, but like financially on your own. You didn't go find a big PE
Financially,
firm to back it.
100% out of my own, self-funded so far, and I've spent quite a bit of my own money. So that's why failure is not an option. I'm like, there's no way I will allow this to fail.
Yep.
So, and I don't think it will fail. I know it won't. So I'm very
Yeah.
confident. I've had several people approach to invest, and I've turned it down. So I've turned it down because if I were to ever consider an investor, they would have to bring a skill set to the table too, if they wanted to not just be like a financial investor that I couldn't,
Strategic.
yeah, like a strategic partner. It's something that they would have to, a skill that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my big rule of thumb is that if you want to partner with me, you have to be able to do something that I'm not good at doing. So
Yeah.
the financial part is like, okay, I had that covered. So I don't want to bring someone in just for the money. That's just
Right.
not, it's not worth it for me.
Or like if I'm thinking, because now this is the meat and the taters of, I love this, like we're brainstorming. If it's like Atlas Van Lines came to you, it's like, hey, we want to invest because like we'll put all of our empty loads like on your like, oh, okay, cool, now like there's your user base, right? You got something
Yes.
to like, that's
Yes.
going to be more valuable than the actual money would be, right? um
Yes.
so talk to me about the roadmap. Like, what's the next like year, 2 years, 3 years look like for you guys? Like, what's the goals of the company? Because I'm a big believer of like, put your goals out into the universe, man, and let the universe do the work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest goal for this year is one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to expand into Canada. Believe it or not, I had a lot
Oh
of people
wow,
reach out from Canada who were looking for something similar to our product that they don't have in Canada. So we're going to expand into there. There's a lot of cross-border shipments that happen there, so that would really help with that as well.
that's cool.
So that's something that we'd like to do is to expand in the Canadian market. We did release our first AI, so would like to, continue to build onto our AI this year as well. With our AI, basically it helps when a load's posted, it'll recommend trucks for you that are out currently, and then vice versa. If
Wow.
there's a truck that gets posted on the board, it'll recommend based on the location of the truck. These are loads that we recommend for you. So we'd like to continue to build onto that.
Cool.
We're working on developing our app. Currently, we're just web-based, so we didn't release an app. So that's something. And then the other thing, I know I have all these like goals for myself, but
I love
another
it.
thing that we're really wanting to work with is partnering with other products and services that kind of mirror the service and product that we're doing. For example, partnering with companies that do tracking, partnering with companies that validate the carriers and brokers that are on the platform to make sure that they're licensed and they're not out frauding people. So that's, another thing. And then partnering with some CRMs to kind of embed our product into their CRM to be able to push things live from, if they're using XYZ CRM, it would be able to push loads from their CRM directly onto our load board.
That one will be huge. Dan Martell talks about that in SaaS Academy, that those strategic partnerships with other softwares, like, will just X factor a SaaS business. It's one of the fastest things, like one of the most impactful things that you can do for a SaaS business. So just pass that little knowledge on that I got from
Yeah,
him.
no,
It's
I
like
love it.
if,
SaaStar, yeah, yeah, SaaStar
if
is one of my favorite podcasts. I listen to that on a regular basis. And if you kind of look at just like some of the big SaaS companies that are super successful, one of them would be Canva. Canva is really big. And the nice
yeah,
thing about her story is when she first released to market, no one wanted to invest or give her any money. And if you look at it now, like she is one of the top SaaS companies out there with partnering with so many different features you get on Canva, and there are so many plugins and
yeah,
additional features that Canva didn't develop. So um, that's one SaaS company that I really look up to because she
yeah.
she she did it right. So
So I don't know if you saw like some of our team uses Adobe, some of our team uses Canva. I love that it lowers the barrier of entry for editing, right? Because like if you take a product like Adobe, super powerful, but it takes a long time to learn it, right? And like Canva is very like self-explanatory, and you can do a lot of the same things in there. And there's some really cool, powerful tools that you can use. I don't know if you saw recently, last year they like put out a memo that was like, "Hey, we're changing our pricing," and like everybody lost their ever loving mind. And so I thought it was a great example of a company listening to their user base. They're like, just kidding. We're not going to do that price increase because, I mean, it was going to be significant for like teams and whatnot. I don't remember what the actual numbers were. I'm sure somebody will leave a comment down below. Let me know if you guys saw this or not. But I mean, it was going to be a significant shift in what their platform cost, and they listen to their user base, which I think is very important. You don't see that a lot of times with SaaS companies that have gotten as big as Canva is. It's just kind of like, hey, the PE firm said the price increase, so we're going to price increase, and whoever falls off falls off. I thought that was very smart of them to listen to the user base. Did you see that by chance?
I didn't see that, but I've heard it happen on other platforms on SaaStar. I've listened to several podcasts where it's really difficult to increase your pricing on a SaaS model. So really be smart when you initially release a SaaS product and make sure that you understand your pricing and your cost and what you're going to charge for your plans because people don't like that change they don't like that change.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
easier to lower your pricing and run specials and promotions on your product, but it's very difficult to increase pricing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do now is that any additional features that we release, typically goes to our higher paid subscription models. So we're building up to our paid plan so that users actually getting more for their money versus we do have a free plan. The reason we have a free plan too is it gives it's kind of beneficial for us because it helps us build up our loads on the board. So we don't charge actually for anyone to contribute loads to the board. So if they're wanting
Oh,
to
that's
post
smart.
loads, or trucks, so let's say you have a truck that you're running out of state and you want to post it on the board, there's no charge. We don't charge you for that. What that helps us with, it just helps keep our board active. So it's really not costing you anything to help you out. The minute you start requesting, that's when we start, asking you to be on a paid plan. So
Yeah. That's
at
cool.
that point, we're helping you find loads. So
Yeah, right. No, and it's like, you're giving it to them for free because they're helping you build the product too. So like that makes perfect sense.
exactly.
I
So
see some pictures over there off to the side says family on there. How do you
yes.
balance family and work? Are you a mom? Talk to us.
Yeah,
I've got a 20
absolutely.
month
So
old daughter and a baby on the way. So talk to me a little bit about family. I always enjoy that whenever we can mix a little family in with
yeah,
business.
I love it. So I've got three great kids. One's in college at UT Austin. Go Longhorns, even though we didn't make it last week, but for that game last Friday, but that's okay. We're okay with Ohio beating us, maybe not.
You guys got
So
Matthew McConaughey though, so like I mean that's kind of
yeah, we
like
do. And you know what? Here's the sad thing is like Natalie was telling me that he does teach a couple of classes down at UT and people see him
oh
around
really?
campus and a lot of people do have met him and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go hang out in Austin with you, honey. So I'm a big fan. So and then I have another daughter who's a junior in high school and my son is in junior high. He's in seventh grade. So
Very
three
cool.
great kids, and they know how much I work. They see me working hard every day. So, and that's the funny thing is like, and initially when you mentioned about being an entrepreneur, it's like some people are, I want to own my own business because I want to, go golf all day, or I don't want to work every day. And unfortunately, that's just not the way it happens. You're working a lot of hours. My typical day is, I do my full 8 hours at the office, and then I go home, I dinner, gym, and then I'm back on my laptop, back on my computer at my home office. So I'm working Saturdays, Sundays. I worked Christmas Eve. I worked Christmas Day. I did work, New Year's Eve. It happens when you're building something, you have to be ready to put in the work.
Yeah.
And if you don't put in the work, you're not going to see results. And, that's just the honest truth. So you
Yeah.
have to not be afraid to work.
I get it, man. It's, when I started my first business my senior year of high school, I missed out on a lot of parties, a lot of friend get-togethers, and once I became like drinking age, not that I didn't drink beforehand, but it's like, it was like, I'm 22, 23 years old, and it's like I got a stacked mowing schedule, and it's like, oh, it rained 2 days this week, so now I'm mowing on the weekends, and like I got buddies texting me like, hey, you going to this field party? And I'm like, nah, dude, I got to be up early tomorrow to mow grass. And they're like, ah, you work too much. I used to hear that all the time, but now it's like I hit them up on a Wednesday. I'm like, you want to go play golf? And they're like, dude, I can't. I'm working. I can't get off in the middle of the day. It's like, you work too much, right? And so it's like, it comes full circle. You gotta, it's trade outs, and the balance. I was on with Gary V last year, and I asked him how he balances with kids, and he's like, dude, you know what it is. It's like, sometimes you got balance, sometimes you don't, right? Sometimes it's the kids, sometimes it's work, and sometimes it's a 90-hour week, and sometimes it can be a 9-hour week. And,
Right,
you just
right.
have to balance that back and forth. And, I was curious how you handle that as being a mom, and, having to put in work, especially, I mean, you got two businesses, right? And like, I
Yep.
don't know what
Yeah,
it,
it's hard.
I don't know what it is about us entrepreneurs just being gluttons for punishment. It's as if under one load of a business isn't
I ask
enough.
myself that all the time. I'm like, what was I thinking? I'm too far in now, so there's no going back. But like balancing, like I don't miss any games. I do not miss any sports games. That I mean, if there's an event, if there's football, if there's basketball, if
Yeah.
there's any of that going on, I don't miss that for the world. You couldn't pay me enough money. But that means that hey, I'm gonna go to the game, but we're gonna grab something to eat versus like me come home and make a full meal, and then we're just gonna like they're gonna get ready for bed, and I'm gonna get back on my computer. So
Right.
they know, they see me, they understand, and that's the beauty of it is they understand, and I still spend enough quality time with them. And sometimes it's not, a lot, but if we don't have a game or whatever, we'll have dinner and sit down, and I tell everyone like, put your devices away. Let's just talk to each other for like 30 minutes. What'd you do today? Like, how was your day? We'll gossip, we'll laugh. They'll tease me, they'll make fun of me. They love doing that. And that's what happens when you have kids. They get older, they become teenagers, and then suddenly the joke's on you.
I'm telling
So
you, the spunk and the attitude that I'm seeing out of Willow, she'll be 2 in April. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna handle you at 11. Like, it's gonna be like,
good luck.
here, like, go shopping with your mom. Here's my credit card. It's like, man, I mean, she started this thing now. The guys on the audio, you won't see this, but like, she like side eyes me and like will slowly turn her head and look at me, and I'm like, whoa, where is this coming from? I'm like, oh my goodness. But man, I'll tell you what, I thought for many, many years, I was like, I'll never get married. I'll never have kids. But, my wife is amazing. She's an amazing mom. She's a grown up Disney princess. And so she's like, she does all the stuff with Willow. And, I've told her this before. I don't think I've ever publicly said this, but like when we got married and like had Willow, there was this like new sense that came over me. I'm like, I'm just now at the starting line. Like it was weird. It was, being a parent, definitely is just different. And so it's been fun to like catalog my thoughts and my memories and stuff. I make a lot of videos. I don't post them all. There's a lot of videos that I make of just like journaling almost, if you will. But it's definitely a challenge to kind of balance the two, but it's also just kind of part of the game, right? My wife and I, we always make this analogy, Nisrine, is that, you know, Kobe Bryant's family probably didn't like that they had games on Christmas, right? But that was what was demanded out of Kobe to be an NBA all-star athlete, right? And so the trade-off is, sure, maybe we have to go to dad's game for actual Christmas, but then we go to Hawaii for 2 weeks after Christmas, right? It's like there's a trade off there. And so it's a little bit of a give and a take. So always cool to ask how people, handle that
It
in their own
is.
family
And I
situations.
can relate to what you just said because over the holidays, I gained this big contract for my moving company. And the funny thing is that the contract started off Christmas Eve, and starting Christmas Eve until now, I've just been swamped with, servicing this account. And I had promised the kids a road trip to like over the holidays. We were going to drive up to Colorado and go ski and so on and so forth. And I couldn't go. So I was like, there's no way I can go. But they understood. They weren't upset. They were like, Mom, no, we get it. Like, you're really busy. This is a big contract. Like, you really needed this, so on and so forth. So they were actually very supportive and understood. And I apologized that I had to work. And I worked from home. Like, I didn't go into the office, but I worked from home and they were so cool about it. But one of their Christmas gifts is that we're going to Costa Rica and for spring break for a
Nice.
week.
There you go.
So the offset was like, hey, they were like, we don't care about this road trip. Like, we're going to Costa Rica and we understand you're busy at work. So yeah, they do eventually kind of adapt to understanding. So,
Yeah.
understanding that, that sometimes there are things that, you have to kind of balance it out. Sometimes you have to work a little bit more and sometimes you get to play more. So it just depends.
And Nazarene, your kids are old enough too. Like, I think you're teaching them responsibility, right? Like, hey, I made a commitment to the client, and so now I'm responsible for that. Like, this has, I have to be responsible and own up to this, and like do what mom's got to do what she says she's going to do, and they're seeing that you're staying true to your word, and if you're like I am, like you're doing it all for them anyway, right? Like you're building this business for the family, to give them a
Yeah,
better life, to
absolutely.
give them the things that we didn't have, right? That's why we work so hard, is to try to provide a life better than what we had.
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, kind of like my background is I'm Lebanese, and my family immigrated here from Lebanon. And so I was born there and grew up in Texas. And, I saw my parents come from really like they left their country and they were good there and they had to kind of start from scratch. Both my parents ended up owning their own businesses and I kind of saw them grow. And so that was really cool. Growing up, we had to have a job. We worked either for my mom or we worked for my dad. We had to pick one. So I kind of grew up around seeing my parents build something from nothing. And so I hope that I can pass that on to my kids because I see that a lot of, kids today just want things to be handed to them and don't really know how to hustle or really to work hard and think, okay, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to make, I'm not going to take a job if I'm not making a minimum of 100 grand right away.
Yeah,
The reality is that typically that's not going to happen unless you're a little bit more established. So
for sure.
you really have to kind of work hard, and especially in entrepreneurship. And I hope I can pass that skill set to them watching me, grow. So
Yeah, I think you're probably already passing it to them, right? They're seeing it in
yeah.
real time, and I figured there was an immigrant somewhere down the family. I have a blog post on CoachCarroll.com that says "Hustle like an immigrant" because it's like, some of my best friends that are most successful entrepreneurs I know, like either their parents were immigrants or they're first generation immigrants to America, and like I don't think that people realize how good we have it in America. Like if you're like a seventh generation American that's like has a family that is pretty well up, like I think they lose touch with like how the rest of the world sees America, and why it is the land of opportunity, to build
Absolutely.
something here.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
I wish there was a better way to get that out, but hey, we'll just keep doing podcasts and hopefully people will stumble across it. And I always say, like, if you can't hustle like an immigrant, just hustle like you're, from a lower class family. Cause like those people hustle as well. Cause like that was me. Like I always make the joke, like we were middle class, but my dad was hanging from the bottom rung of the middle class ladder. Right. And it's like, I grew up in a household of like, well, the rich are rich and the poor are poor. And that's just how it's always going to be. And it's like, it's just like, I'm like, no, man, that's not how it has to be. Like I can
No,
be,
that's
I
just
can be
kind of
the king.
settling. That's really settling. But that's the great thing about this country is that everyone has equal opportunity. Maybe
Yeah.
back in the day we didn't see it, and maybe it didn't happen back in the day. But today in 2025,
Yeah.
I feel like we're on an equal playing game. Everyone's pretty much equal. So I don't know, maybe if you live out in the sticks, it might be different. I'm not really sure. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I don't really see a lot of that happening here. But I really do believe that hard work is really the roadmap to and smart hard work, not hard work
Right.
as far as like, you have to work smart.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's really the core foundation of success is that you have to be able to put in the right type of hard work in because
Yeah.
you could do a lot of hard work, but if you're doing the wrong work, it's not going to get you anywhere.
And I think you got to build, right? Like I think like America was founded by builders. It was built by builders. Like that's the beauty of this country is like if you build something, you are rewarded. You're rewarded like I think spiritually, right? Like I'm most happy when I'm building new things, but also financially. Like the tax code is written. Like I saw like they were grilling the new Secretary of Treasury about it. It was like, you don't pay you're skimming off $1 billion in taxes or whatever. He's like, I'm just following the tax code. It's like everything in our country is geared to the builders, and if you want to build things, you will be rewarded if you're building smartly, right? You did a great job. You found a niche, you found a need. You were running a business, and you're like, this thing over here doesn't exist, and that's a pain point in my business. maybe I should fix that. And like now, boom, there you go. You've got a SaaS business now, right? And so
Yep, absolutely.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, cool. How can everybody find you on socials? Obviously we'll link it up down below, but like
Yeah.
what's your handles or where
The
you're most
best way
active?
to reach me is on LinkedIn. So just
Okay.
Nisrine Masri. I'm on LinkedIn. So I kind of tell everyone, like, reach out to me. I would love to hear from anyone. You can DM me. I always respond. Madison does a lot of the other social media platforms, but on my LinkedIn, I'm the one who responds on there. So I love, feedback, opportunities. If you see me on and you have any great ideas, like, I'd love to talk to you. So definitely reach out on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach me.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Nisrine, thank you so much for being a guest in the Sales Factory. Guys, it's Coach Carroll. Until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with your friends and families. Hustle. It's worth it.